This video is meant to be the second part to a three-part series on teacher reviews on student essays on the indispensable opposition. So my students wrote an essay in response to this prompt, the FRQ 2009 Form B, and I reviewed their introductions in a previous video, and now I am reviewing the body paragraph. Here we go. So let's begin by talking about the evidence and commentary section, meaning how you can get a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or 4, which is the maximum amount of points in this category. Now, the ones, usually, they summarize the text and they offer little commentary. There is almost no textual evidence, and it may be, if there is, it may be irrelevant or vague altogether. 2, it's only a little bit better than a 1, and a 3 is only a little bit less than a 4. That's the way I think of it. I cover this information in another video, but nonetheless, here's what it says. 2 is when you do offer some commentary, but it is repetitive or superficial. I like to think of it basic, underdeveloped. You may misrepresent sections of the text, and your commentary altogether is unconvincing or it lacks evidence altogether. A 3, which again is not as much as a 4, meaning not as good as a 4. That's the way I think of it. I don't want to think, I think the division between the division is right between the 2 and the 3, meaning the 2 is higher than a 1, but a 3 is just lower than a 4. So these essays that receive a 3, they often reference the text with quotes and paraphrases that are relevant to the thesis. And they provide commentary that relates to the thesis, but it is partial or narrow, if you want to think of it, or incomplete, meaning they begin to analyze and then they fall short in some way. Some parts of that essay, especially in the evidence and commentary section, are insightful. They can have minor mistakes, but only some parts are insightful. It is not insightful all throughout. Only in some sections is it insightful. There is simple or just adequate development of the examples, and the commentary is predominantly clear, but it lacks analysis at times. All right, and a 4, and mind you, a 4 in the evidence and commentary does not mean perfect, right? And that's something that's very important. What it means is that it references the text with quotations and paraphrases that are relevant to the thesis. It is well developed. There is a connection between the evidence and the thesis that is clear and insightful, and the analysis is engaging and elaborate. It can have minor mistakes, and that's something that's important because minor mistakes are not necessarily do not impede the reading of the text, are not necessarily something to discount points for. And these essays make compelling connections between the writer's rhetorical choices and their effect on the overall purpose of the text, and that's important. Okay, so this is a student body sample. One of my students that asked me to review it, so he wrote this body paragraph, and I'm scoring it a 2. I'm going to read it, and then we'll talk about how to make it better. Now, we're not going to read this one. We're going to read this one, because this one also includes what I plan to change, though it is the same. So here's what he wrote. Whatever it's in red, I plan to change. Beginning the article, the writer sets up his argument by providing the reader with a concrete definition of free speech in which he will carry out and support throughout the remainder of the text. Lippmann describes the right to speech as a, quote, noble idea that is a practical necessity that keeps the wheels of society moving. He differs to ethos when he provides a quote from a philosopher, Voltaire, stating, quote, I wholly disapprove of what you say, but will defend to death your right to say it. But as a matter of fact, most men will not defend to the death the rights of other men, end quote. This quote provides a leveled view on the right of speech, as in even a situation of disagreement, each party will always deserve and own their right to speak their mind. However, Lippmann quickly reveals that this may not be the case across the board when he contends, quote, but as a matter of fact, most men will not defend to the death the rights of other men. By providing this contrast, he sets up the idea that while in theory the idea of protecting free speech seems righteous and beneficial to all, in practice we will somehow suppress those men if they can. Lippmann brings this reality to the reader to reveal how the nature of a man can sometimes be counterintuitive to the essential rights that are given and deemed as imperative. Now, again, I gave this body a 2. Why did I give it a 2? Because it saves a lot of the analysis or the commentary for the end, and everything else is partial commentary. Now, here are the things that I plan to change. Now, this is what it looks like now. And I am giving this body paragraph a 4. I know that it's very difficult and sometimes inaccurate to score one paragraph in the evidence and commentary section. The idea is that you score the bulk of the evidence and commentary. Now, the evidence and commentary, the bulk of it often happens in the body paragraph. So for the most part, we look at bodies in order to score this section, this category. But I am pretending that this body, that there's another one like it, and that is equally as good. In that case, I would give it, this theoretical essay, I would give it a 4 out of the 4 allotted points. Okay, so this is how it has changed. Remember, this is what it looked like, and this is how it has changed. Lippmann opens his argument with a concrete definition of free speech that characterizes such right as a noble idea that is practiced only out of necessity, to keep the wheels of society moving. This anticipates his ultimate conclusion that difference of opinion where political opposition is concerned is crucial if we are to grow as individuals and if we are to hold our label as civilized. He repeats the same pattern in the next paragraph, where he defers to Voltaire's renowned and ultimate and universal maxim, "I wholly disapprove of what you say, but will defend to death your right to say it," only to counter it with, "As a matter of fact, most men will not defend to the death the rights of other men." This format of presenting the ideal or the expectation to then deflate such expectation is meant to serve as a mirror to people's true selves, those who think of the right of his speech as essential and that of others as merely consequential and therefore tolerable. By providing this contrast, he sets up the idea that while in theory, the idea of protecting free speech seems righteous and beneficial to all, in practice, most will, quote, somehow suppress those men if they can. Lippmann brings this reality to the reader to reveal the hypocrisy of tolerance as a half measure to acceptance and as counterintuitive to the essential rights given to all. Okay, now, this is a 4, but I still left it with some mistakes. I don't know if you noticed, but it's keep, and this is lowercase when it should be capitalized. There's other mistakes all throughout that I left on purpose. One of the bigger ones is that I do not quote the line right after the quotation, which I should. I should put line 5, line 7, line whatever. This is important. I left these things out to show you that even if the body fails in these specific areas that I've just pointed out to you, it still earns a 4 because it is analytical of the text. It is talking about the rhetorical choices used by the writer. So this body would deserve a 4, even if a lower 4 because of the things that I left out. Okay, that's it.